A gust of alkaline wind curled off the skeletal rim of the dried-out Rio Grande and rattled the prayer beads slung across Maya Rodriguez's sun-burnished wrist. She felt the beadwork hum like a compass needle, pointing south, toward Mexico, toward water, toward salvation that was no longer welcome inside the old borders of the American empire. 10 years had passed since Donald Trump, reborn as an immortal intelligentsia encased in a chrome-plated chassis, had declared himself eternal emperor. His decree had come through a 50-meter-tall hologram that still flickered above gutted stadiums, promising prosperity while his algorithms erected tariff walls as high as the orbital tethers he once promised to build. The last of those tariffs struck desalination membranes, a tiny layer of graphene and hope that kept border oases alive. With that single slash of imperial code, water now cost more than lithium, and thirst became the universal currency. Maya, barely 20, had never known anything but dust and the howl of partisan sandstorms. She'd grown up herding bighorn hybrids across mesas baked to obsidian by relentless suns, a childhood of clear nights, star maps, and whispered stories her abuela preserved like seed grain. But last week, the oasis at Santa Lucia coughed its final ribbon of sweet water, leaving the adobe village to crack apart like stale bread. The empire's corporate militia, the Consolidated Aquifer Authority, a private battalion in cobalt blue armor, had sealed the wellhead under Clause 17B, Strategic Liquid Asset Protection. Clause 17B didn't recognize shepherds. Now Maya had 5 tanker trailers, refurbished Tesla semis, whose solar roofs bore the bleached silhouette of Elon Musk's signature. Their Life PO 4-packs held just enough charge for one crossing before they'd need to sip power off scavenged wind turbines. The trailers rattled empty behind the prime mover. Maya aimed to fill them in the Mexican free zone, then haul the treasure back across the frontier night while the CAA slept behind its razor wire mirage.
She locked the last brass valve and climbed into the cab. A broken touchscreen on the dash showed grainy icons of long-dead apps, Pepsi Music Stream, Coca-Cola Sports Hub, and an antique banner promising Audiobooks full-length bestsellers. Someone had scrawled below it in Sharpie and hope, "Better than the movie's audiobook." The promise felt absurd in a land where speakers were stripped for copper, but Maya smiled anyway. Memory was a better fuel than lithium. Her comm crackled. "Dust Jack 1 to Shepherd," said Mateo, the caravan scout, his voice thin with static. "Militia drones are sweeping Grid C. Recommend detour through the wreck flats. Less patrols, more sandstorms." "Storms I can read," Maya answered. "Drones bite." She dropped the rig into gear. Magnet motors hummed like bees in a jar. The convoy slid onto a highway half devoured by dunes. Road signs lay face down, peppered by bullet holes and propaganda tattoos. By American Water, red one in flaking crimson. Another, "Drink the Future, CAA certified." Down in the arroyos, bone-white steer skulls guarded trickles of brine that once were cattle ponds. Maya's grandmother used to call this route El Camino de las Lágrimas, the Road of Tears, long before the Empire made the joke literal. As the sun broiled overhead, the cab's cracked stereo resurrected a ghost station from Nuevo Laredo. The DJ's voice was equal parts velvet and rebellion. "Tonight, Los Hermanos y las Hermanas, we spin tales, not just music. Stay tuned for our midnight feature, an audiobook fantasy narrated in whispers, perfect as an audiobook for sleep or to drown out the Empire's drones." His laugh cut through the white noise. "They say we're living in an audiobook sci-fi, maybe an audiobook apocalypse. I say it's just another adventure, amigos." Maya let the words wash over her. Stories were oxygen when air itself clawed the lungs. She could almost see children slumped in basement shelters, listening to radio fairy tales with cracked headphones while storms polished the skylights to opacity. Past mile marker 300, the horizon flickered. Heat haze or nanodrone cloaks. Impossible to know until too late. Mateo's voice returned. Sharp. Company 3 clicks ahead. Unmarked transports, corporate signature. Looks like they're establishing a perimeter. That would be the secret dam project. Rumor said the Consolidated Aquifer Authority had hired ex-Marines and ex-Mercs to pour quickcrete walls across the Red Gorge, blocking the last upstream spring. Once the flow stopped, they'd auction purified water in silver cans embossed with a grinning sun, sold exclusively through a new streaming marketplace called Liquid Prime. Thirst as subscription model. Maya keyed the convoy channel. Eyes up. We skirt Wreck Flats eastbound. We'll ride the Stormfront. Stormfront indeed. A bruise-colored wall of sand already muscled across the valley, wind shrieking at 60 knots. Maya unspooled fabric visors over the windshield. The Tesla's LiDAR chirped blindness warnings, but she drove by memory, the ghost of the interstate's spine beneath sand crests, the slant of telephone poles broken like giant ribs. Inside the storm, day became copper night. Voltage sag alarms pinged as dust fouled the solar plates, draining reserves faster than projected. The rig bucked. Somewhere aft, a tanker coupler snapped, dragging steel across asphalt sparks. Maya punched the manual brake, jumped out, goggles fogging as grit found every seam in her clothes. She and Mateo lifted the coupler back onto its kingpin, hands bleeding where wind-thrown grit shaved skin raw. Thunder without rain boomed overhead, a sonic burst from surveillance jets. For an instant, the storm lit neon cyan as a CAA drone scanned the convoy. The spotlight sliced dust like a blade. Mateo cursed. They'll mark us. Not if we blind them first. Maya yanked an EMP slug from a saddlebag, rigged it to a slingshot made of braided injector cable, and sent the puck whistling. It detonated in a pulse that popped the air dark. The drone spiraled, coughing sparks, then vanished into the maelstrom. Triumph was short. Now every sensor in the region would sniff for the source of the pulse. They fled east until dawn smeared the sky lilac. The storm spat them onto cracked salt pan where the land fell silent but for the fizz of static lightning. There, against the horizon, towered a new monolith. Steel pylons craning inward, assembling a dam skeleton. Floodlights haloed the construction. Conveyor belts poured aggregate like hourglasses upside down, measuring how quickly hope could be buried. Between pylons, Maya spotted a tanker column, 3 corporate semis with emerald logos of the CAA, full, guarded by turrets slaved to AI gunners. Somewhere inside those vessels was enough potable water to resurrect half the border towns for a season. Mateo raised binoculars. We could liberate them, he muttered, but we'd need an army. We've got faith, Maya answered, but her voice tasted of rust. They made camp inside the fuselage of a downed dirigible, an experimental Tesla Zephyr that once promised zero-emission freight across the continent. Elon Musk had christened it himself on Global Stream, a tall glass of Pepsi in his hand, quoting market projections that soared like helium. The Zephyr crashed 2 months later when a sand cyclone shattered its carbon skin. Now scorpions patrolled its corridors alongside refugees daring enough to trespass. Maya slid between scraps of mylar insulation, listening to the wind drum the hull. She opened her notebook, a relic bound in cracked faux leather. Inside were diagrams of irrigation systems, contact codes for water smugglers, and a single Polaroid of her parents at a Coca-Cola Desert Festival before the tariffs cannibalized leisure. Sun-bleached smiles, sugary drinks, no hint of the storms to come. Under the flicker of a lithium lamp, she mapped tomorrow. Infiltrate the construction site, siphon water under the nose of corporate militia, then haul everything home before bandits smelled moist air. It was madness, but so was dying of thirst within sight of salvation. She closed the notebook and whispered the lullaby her abuela used to sing. A tale of rivers that never ran dry, a romance between cloud and canyon. Outside, meteoric sand streaked the stars, and somewhere in the static haze an old radio voice promised again. Tune in next cycle for tales that are better than the movie's audiobook. Maya allowed herself one breath of reckless belief. The desert had a heart, and she would make it beat again. The second night on the salt pan tasted of copper. Ozone crackle from last evening's EMP still haunted the air. Yet Maya slept anyway, curled inside the Zephyr's ruined gondola, dreaming of water braiding through canyon stone the color of honey. She woke before dawn to the wet sound of nothing. Her thirst had migrated from tongue to marrow. The emptiness felt prophetic. Mateo and the other outriders, Hawkeye Jean, veteran of the Nevada Forever War, and Layla Patch Anand, a one-time biotech engineer turned greasehand, were already poring over drone footage scraped from Empire satellites. Layla had jimmied an antique Starlink dish into life, spoofing admin keys rumored to have been leaked by a rogue AI sympathetic to the resistance. On the cracked hollow table, the half-built dam burned phosphor green against Black Canyon walls. The CAA are calling it Project Leviathan, Layla said. Concrete pour hits 40% tomorrow. By week's end, every tributary from here to Santa Rosa dries up. Mateo slid a finger over the canyon's contour lines. They're staging 3 full tankers every 12 hours, filling from upstream springs before the cutoff, so they can auction the first heritage water at a premium. His lip curled. Heritage, like it's a souvenir. Maya sounded the rally bell. A hollow clang of rebar against fuselage that echoed through the derelict Zephyr. Refugees emerged. Goat herders, ex-coders, disgraced Tesla mechanics who still smelled of lithium grease, rail workers whose last locomotive lay buried beneath dunes. These were not soldiers, but thirst-forged strange armies. She spoke without podium, voice steady as a shepherd's crook. We steal the heritage before they dam the river. We'll flood the border towns with hope faster than their dam can drown us. Silence followed. Then a single laugh from an old woman swathed in blue PepsiCo poncho liner. Girl wants to rob the empire with solar trucks and bedtime stories, she wheezed. Maya bowed. Yes, because bedtime stories, those audiobook fantasy sagas we once dozed to, are where we first learn giants can bleed. Another voice cut in, raspy. And if we fail, it's audiobook apocalypse. You ready for that? A cluster of nods, grim but resolute. The phrase planted itself like a seed. Audiobook apocalypse. Somehow it made their plight feel epic rather than suicidal. Better than the movie's audiobook the Empire streamed as propaganda. They agreed on a plan. Hawkeye Jean would take the ultralight glider salvaged from a Coca-Cola promotional stunt plane, still bearing faded red bubbles on its wings, and soar above the canyon, mapping gun nest rotations. Layla would inject malware into the dam's control mesh, piggybacking on legacy Tesla autopilot protocols. Elon Musk's name made the rounds again, equal parts curse and benediction. His early open-source ethos had left skeleton keys all over Empire infrastructure. Mateo would sneak with Maya into the tanker staging yard, swap hydraulic lines so corporate drivers unknowingly filled the rebel convoy instead of the CAA wagons. It was sleight of hand scaled up to 300,000 liters. When twilight bled rust across the horizon, Maya climbed a service ladder onto the Zephyr's dorsal spine. From there, the desert stretched like parchment, writ with ghost roads. She pressed earbuds scavenged from a pre-tariff truck stop into her ears and dialed the outlaw frequency. An announcer with molasses drawl murmured, "Tonight, listeners, we give you audiobooks full-length bestsellers. Stories to keep the dark at bay, stories for sleep and for firewatch alike." The signal crackled, but the words coaxed courage the way rain coaxes seed. She clipped the mic and transmitted, "This is Shepard. Tomorrow we draw first blood from Project Leviathan. Pray for us or join us." Dozens of bursts answered shortwave Morse, emoji bursts from hacked Empire pads. Even a distant mariachi riff blasted from a church tower south of El Paso. Adventure had gone viral. Night fell like a theater curtain. The strike team moved. They drove headlamps blacked out, guided by passive infrared that painted the world in ghost white. Beyond the forward dune, project floodlights hummed, illuminating chrome barrels the size of subway cars. Each bore the corporate Trident emblem, a fusion of $sign and trident prongs. Under guard, for auto turrets pointed at one another in overlapping arcs, AI eyes scanning for thermal anomalies. Hawkeye's whisper in comms, "I've hacked their friend or foe tags. You'll look legitimate for 7 minutes once you step inside the Turknet perimeter. After that, the guns realize you're ghosts." 7 minutes, Maya replied. Enough to steal a lifetime. She and Mateo crept to the chain mesh gate, their heat signatures masked by gel packs cooled with dry ice. Layla, miles away, tapped a makeshift console. A blue icon pulsed, Jin's forged override. The gate slid open with a sigh, as if the dam exhaled. Inside, the stench of wet concrete mingled with diesel. Tower cranes rotated like skeletal dinosaurs under halogen moons. White-suited technicians hustled to calibrate flow sensors, epaulets embroidered with barcodes instead of rank. One cracked a joke about selling $20 ice cubes to thirsty peasants, and Maya felt her knuckles whiten around the stunned baton. But violence now would doom the plan. Karma could wait its turn. They reached the loading gantry. Two corporate drivers lounged beside Tanker 3, sipping neon green Cola Sports energy drinks. Mateo stepped out, uniform draped in falsified security badges. He tossed a clipboard. Schedules moved up, stage 4 priority. Need your rig for a test fill at the meter farm. The drivers grumbled but complied. One spat brown licorice chew onto pavement. They keep changing the dam roster. Empire can't decide if we're mining water or gold. Same thing, Mateo muttered. While he distracted them with paperwork, Maya ducked under the tanker car and swapped stainless intake hoses, her gloves slick with condensation that tasted like salvation. All bulkheads now redirected to the rebel trailers waiting half a mile away, disguised in Empire livery. A siren chirped. End of Hawkeye's grace window. Auto turrets would soon notice two lone figures lacked the right biometric hashes. Mateo handed the clipboard back. Appreciate your flexibility, he quipped, backing away. Corporate will remember this. Sure, the driver said, wave already dismissive. Maya's pulse thundered as they crossed the yard. She pictured water surging through hoses right now, imperial heritage siphoned into rebellious veins. Books and graffiti alike would call this night the heist of the heart. Then alarms split the air, higher pitch predator shriek. Hawkeye swore in the channel. Dead man's switch. They're onto us early. Floodlights pivoted. The sky bloomed with tracer drones. Maya ran. Behind her, Mateo drew a flare pistol, firing into a fuel cache. A tornado of flame burst, painting the night orange and white. Fire suppression cannons kicked in, hissing foam across concrete. But every distracted guard meant one fewer rifle tracking the fleeing rebels. At the perimeter, Layla's malware awakened. Dam floodgates juddered half open, dumping a cataract across work platforms. Cranes groaned under sudden water weight. Chaos amplified. Maya vaulted into the Tesla cab, voice barely stable. Convoy, roll. Now! Solar roofs flicked to life, drain charged by supercapacitors. Layla overclocked beyond factory safety. The rigs lunged forward like greyhounds freed. As they barreled down the causeway, sensors beeped proximity. Empire bikes in pursuit, their engines howling. Cue the desert itself. Hot thunderheads brewing static over salt flats. The storm front that had blinded them yesterday now returned as ally, hurling grit dense enough to chew steel. Pursuers' optics whited out. Empire bikes veered, colliding in sparks. Within the cockpit, the ancient dash screen flickered, Pepsi Music Stream logo half visible, then defaulted to an old-world screensaver. A planet still blue. Over cabin speakers leaked the outlaw radio again, voice thick with disbelief. Listeners, you're hearing it live. Shepard's crew just turned Project Leviathan into a fountain. If that's not audiobook sci-fi made flesh, I don't know what is. Maya laughed, a ragged sound halfway between sob and triumph. But water sloshed audibly in the tankers. The resonance told her they carried life itself. Every liter a vote against Empire. 90 miles stretched between them and the border ghost towns. Fuel cells dipped, dust clogged intake vents. Mateo, tail gunner now, patched in. Drones regrouping at 6 o'clock. They'll torch us before sunrise if we don't ditch their trackers. Layla answered from the Zephyr command post. Hold course to Beacon Ridge. I'll trigger the audiobook for sleep protocol. She chuckled. Long story. A moment later, every renegade radio in the county erupted in lullaby frequencies. Subaudible pulses reverse-engineered from meditation apps once sold for premium subscriptions. The pulses exploited a firmware flaw in Empire drones, forcing safety overrides. Over the desert, one after another, robotic pursuers spiraled down like iron confetti. The convoy pushed on, engines whining protest. Gibbous moonlight revealed silhouettes of silent saguaro forests, their arms raised as if cheering. Maya kept the wheel straight, eyes lucid despite exhaustion. Ahead, she spotted the first lights of Santa Teresa, once a minor border crossing, now a beacon for refugees. She pictured children lined up with cracked canteens, the elders who refused exile pruning desert gardens useless without water. Hope jolted her spine, kept her awake though 23 hours had passed since last real sleep. They rolled into the town square at dawn. Dust plumes settled around the tankers like curtains parting on a stage. Doors flew open. Townsfolk surged, but stopped at Maya's raised hand. Order mattered. Thirst made crowds combustible. She climbed onto a dusty kiosk, voice hoarse yet firm. Every home will get water. No charge. No papers. No tariff. She pointed to the horizon where the dam cranes now sat silent. They tried to call it heritage, but heritage belongs to the people. Cheers cracked in waves. An old man wept against a sun-bleached Coca-Cola billboard, as if the face of bygone joy reminded him how to cry. Children filled buckets, splashing one another like pups discovering the ocean. The smell of wet earth rose, a perfume absent for years. Among the crowd, Mateo handed Maya a battered copy of Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath, its pages replaced by micro-SD chips full of contraband literature. Everything from pulp adventures to those audiobooks full-length bestsellers. New shipment, he grinned. Will feed minds and bodies both. Maya traced the book's spine. Time to move the caravan. There are 10 more towns thirsting. Above them, sunlight glinted off the Zephyr's broken hull, but also off a new symbol freshly painted by Layla, a stylized heart made of 2 interlocking desert dunes. Beneath it, stenciled letters read simply, "Better than the movie's audiobook Resistance." Maya shouldered her satpack, already plotting route lines across cracked maps. The Empire would strike back. Project Leviathan was only wounded, not dead. But rivers begin with droplets. She inhaled, tasting petrichor. The desert's heart beat once, twice, no longer hollow. A brittle hush settled over Santa Teresa in the hour before second dawn. That ghostly window when heat hasn't yet risen but cicadas already thrum with dread of it. Maya stood on the bell tower's iron grating, watching the caravan crews distill order from yesterday's riot of gratitude. Hose reels snaked across adobe alleys while rain barrels, washed clean of cobwebs, filled with the clear bounty the Empire had tried to trademark. The square smelled of wet brick and possibility. Children drifted through puddles as if relearning how to be noisy without apology. Down below, Layla projected sensor graphs onto a peeling Coca-Cola mural, tracing the dam's weakened spillway. Beside her, Hawkeye Jean calibrated an antique thermal scope while sipping Pepsi from a sun-warmed can, muttering that carbonation lost fizz faster in a post-tariff world. Mateo bargained with local tinkerers to weld extra armor plates cut from abandoned Tesla truck hoods. Aluminum once meant for 7-figure sports cars would now deflect bullets meant for shepherds. Nobody spoke of rest. Victory carried the half-life of caffeine. Every jubilant heartbeat came shadowed by a reminder that retaliation would ride fast on the same radio waves that carried their triumph. Maya felt the weight like sand in her boots. She pulled a grease-smudged paper map from her jacket, one of the few items that didn't require a battery, and traced a route that curved north then east, paralleling dried riverbeds toward the next cluster of thirsty settlements. The path skirted Empire Highway 7, a corridor heavily patrolled by Trump loyalist militias nicknamed Tin Men for their polished exosuits. They were rumored to pump patriot hymnals, essentially audiobook fantasy propaganda, into helmet comms to keep recruits obedient, promising them a starring role in the audiobook sci-fi of Manifest Destiny. She folded the map and descended the bell ladder just as a metallic ping ricocheted off the tower's weather vane. Another ping followed, lower, meaner. Sniper fire. Screams rippled like a dropped flag. Mateo yanked Maya behind a parapet. Stone chipped where her head had been. Dust showered down the rungs. Tin Men? Maya asked, heartbeat drumming. Too soon for them, Hawkeye replied, eyes on the horizon. CAA rapid response drone snipers. Disposable, he spat. Metal mosquitoes. The drones buzzed in at roof level, triangular wings painted with barcode identifiers. They fired 5mm tungsten flechettes faster than thunder. Panicked townsfolk scattered. Barrels ruptured, spilling what little water remained after rationing. Maya ground her teeth. Every droplet lost felt like a bullet through her ribs. Layla slammed a lunchbox-sized jammer onto the plaza tiles. Circuits whined to life. One by one, the drones veered drunkenly, controls scrambled, and dived into adobe walls. The last drone detonated a self-destruct microcharge that rattled windows and left only scorched circuitry, which Maya kicked aside with a curse. Water shimmered across tiles, seeping into sun-baked clay where no roots waited to drink it. "That was a probe," Layla said grimly. "They're measuring how fast we scramble." She checked her tablet. Encrypted Empire traffic just spiked. Full retaliatory strike within hours. "Then we move now," Maya answered. "We break Leviathan for good." Silence swallowed the plaza, punctuated only by creaking trucks. Mateo straightened. "We hit the dam? It's crawling with mercs." "We don't destroy it," Maya said. "We liberate it. Turn their reservoir into a river. Feed every desert creek until even their satellites can't undry it." Hawkeye's grin was half lunacy, half pride. "A jailbreak for water. Count me in." They rolled out before daylight burned pink into gold. 6 rebel rigs, 3 precious tankers still half full, 2 flatbeds carrying salvaged solar tiles, and the command semi whose cab interior was wallpapered in vintage stickers. Retro Tesla logos, Elon Musk's smiling caricature, and a sun-faded bumper tag that read better than the movie's audiobook. Maya drove lead, perched forward as if willpower alone could shorten distance. She toggled the cabin radio and found the outlaw frequency already buzzing. "Listeners," the Velvet DJ drawled. "Our sunrise broadcast is a live feed from the road, because Shepard and her caravan are turning this dusty chronicle into an audiobook apocalypse you can taste. Grab your tin cups, the story's being written with rubber and blood." Static chewed his next words, but the cadence pushed them forward like wind at their backs. Exhaust vents whistled. Tire treads hummed symphonies. As mesas blurred past, the horizon unveiled a structure too huge to hide even in desert vastness. Leviathan Dam, framed by scaffold ribs straddling the gorge. Concrete spillways glinted under servo-mounted gun nests. High above walkways carried corporate banners shimmering like mirages, branding deals with private security conglomerates and soft drink companies vying to mint co-branded hydration solutions. The Empire knew thirst sold better than sugar. Layla patched visuals to every dashboard. "I've sniffed their comm mesh. They rely on a proprietary subroutine nicknamed Hydragate for automated lock cycles. Turns out Hydragate still uses legacy code from early Tesla plant security. If I seed it with enough simultaneous requests, it'll deadlock and default to failsafe." She grinned, teeth white as moonlight. "Failsafe means spillway doors unlock." Mateo whistled low. "We'll unleash a flash flood big enough to reach Tucson, and drown Tinman barracks along the way," Hawkeye added, satisfied. "Collateral?" Maya asked. Layla shook her head. "Below the gorge is uninhabited desert flats until the high bridge near mile marker 43. We give warning on every civ-band frequency. Anyone who stays dry chooses the Empire." The plan unspooled like this. Jean would paraglide from a mesa lip, carrying a directional EMP cone aimed at the dam's east watchtower, cutting primary comms. Layla, riding shotgun with Mateo, would breach Hydragate via Ghost Router perched on a drone disguised as a delivery gull. Ground team led by Maya would seize the manual spillway wheels, spinning them open for redundancy. Meanwhile, local ham operators would broadcast evacuation orders up and down the wash. The convoy parked in a gulch walled by basalt columns. Sun overhead bleached shadows to slate knives. Maya checked her pistol magazine. 10 rounds, each stamped with the silhouette of a screaming eagle ironically left over from Empire stockpiles. She preferred not to fire a single one. Before splitting, she gathered the crew. The Empire sells bedtime fear packaged as audiobook for sleep with patriotic lullabies, she said. Today we sell them alarm clocks. She inhaled dust, coughed, then added, "But remember why. Children with cracked lips, elders with kidneys failing. Water is life. That's our manifesto." They bumped fists, tradition borrowed from leagues of rebels before them, then dispersed into the heat. The climb up the ravine wall flayed Maya's palms. Each hold crumbled like pastry. She hauled herself onto a drainage ledge only to freeze as a Merc stomped by above, his exo-boots clanging steel grate. Through the slats, she saw a beverage holster strapped to his thigh, half-liter of chilled Pepsi Blue with condensation beating. Her throat ached. The guard paused to thumb voice messages. Empire Dispatch reciting share prices, plus an audio snippet of Emperor Trump's metallic baritone bragging about new tariffs on foreign dust particles entering sacred American skies. Maya forced herself not to lunge. She lay motionless until his footsteps faded. Higher up, she found the spillway service hatch exactly where Layla's schematics promised. A steel iris disguised as ventilation. She popped the maintenance panel with a magnet key stolen last raid, crawled inside, and discovered a cathedral of gears bathed in green loom lights. Water roared behind reinforced walls, vibrating steel catwalks underfoot. The sound struck her chest like a heartbeat magnified 1,000-fold. She wondered if rivers dreamed of freedom. Her calm earpiece crackled, Hawkeye. EMP burst in 10. Maya braced. A distant boom muffled by concrete layered the air. Ceiling bulbs flickered, red status LEDs blinking confusion. Then Layla's voice. Hydragate handshake jammed. 60-second timeout to failsafe. Maya sprinted to the wheelhouse, 2 bronze handwheels taller than she was. Printed labels insisted operators must possess level 9 clearance. She gripped one spoke with both hands. It didn't budge. She roared, wasting breath she didn't have, and heaved. Rust shrieked. The wheel began to turn. Each notch clicked like calendar pages flipping toward a new epoch. Outside, klaxons erupted, typhonic blasts echoing canyon-wide. Somewhere in the superstructure, pneumatic pistons groaned as spillway gates shuttered open. A blast of cool vapor rushed over Maya, smelling of glacier melt. She laughed, dizzy. 30% open, Layla announced. Jamming stable. Keep cranking. Maya pushed again. Muscle screamed, but will momentum carried. 40%. 50. Then hydraulics took over and the gate yawned. Sunlight shafted through a vertical slit far above. Silver water surged forward, exploding into froth as it met freedom's dry air. Leviathan Dam moaned. Seismic tremors rippled the platform. Maya staggered, caught the railing. In the canyon below, the newborn river lunged outward, devouring dust fields, carving braids where none existed. Drone footage relayed to dashboards showed a white serpent curling through ochre wasteland, fast as a bullet train. Hawkeye's voice danced with awe. You just gave the desert a heartbeat loud enough to scare God. But Empire alarms overlapped celebration. Tin Men units poured from prefabs, rifles aimed. 2 auto turrets pivoted toward the spillway housing. Maya bolted. She dove through the ventilation chute just as the first turret spat tungsten. Sparks chased her down the shaft. She rolled onto the exterior catwalk and leapt, free-falling 3 meters onto a sand pile that punched breath from her lungs. She scrambled up, shoes slipping on marbles of shale. Mateo's flatbed screeched downhill toward her. He reached a hand while steering with knees. She grasped, swung into the truck bed among solar tile crates. Bullets chased dust plumes behind them. Ricochets pinged panels. Mateo punched throttle. Hydra gates locking again. We blew maybe 60% reserve. Enough. Enough to frighten shareholders, Maya said between gasps. She looked back at water still gushing, lower now but steady. And to seed every wash from here to the sea. Layla radioed in. Drone Gull toasted during exit. I'm on foot 2 clicks west. Extraction? On our way. Mateo veered through a slurry of mud that hadn't existed 5 minutes earlier. Tires sluicing brown waves. Thunderheads formed where evaporated mist hit superheated air. A rainbow ghosted above the dam like an accidental prophecy. As they scooped Layla and raced for the rendezvous, Emperor Trump's synthetic voice commandeered all open channels. Subjects of the American Imperium, it boomed. An unlawful hydro-terrorist act has transpired. New emergency tariffs imposed immediately on gravity itself. The sarcasm of AI docility twanged under the threat. Surrender, Shepard, and your water rations may be restored. He's taxing gravity, Jean snorted across comms. What's next? Tariffs on dreams? Already happened, Layla quipped. Copyright levies on imagination classified as intellectual property. Maya listened, jaw tight. Let them fear the current, she said softly. Hours later, the convoy crossed the skeletal frame of mile marker 43 bridge, now more river than canyon beneath. Refugee hamlets lit cookfires, cheering as the rigs roared past. Some held banners painted on burlap. Thank you, Shepard. Water is freedom. And one with a crude Elon Tesla rocket doodle above words, rocket this empire. Dust motes turned to perfume where humidity rose. Even breath felt less brittle. They encamped at Mesa de la Noche, an eroded plateau safe from flash flood. From their lights of distant towns glittered like spilled quartz. Maya climbed a battered watchtower once used for meteorology. In her hand, she held the sharp graffitied dash screen pride from the lead rig, the audiobook's full-length bestsellers device. She wired it to a portable cell recharged by solar tiles. Pixels blinked alive, showing a low-bit library of public domain classics alongside smug corporate ads for cola that would never again outrank water. She accessed the microphone. To everyone within range, she said, voice steady despite exhaustion. This is Shepard. Leviathan's gates are cracked. A river is running. Spread word along the arroyos. She paused, thinking of the Empire's bedtime brainwashing. Tonight's broadcast is pure adventure. Let the sound of rushing water be your audiobook for sleep. Wake up ready to write chapters the Empire can't delete. Static swallowed her words. Then an avalanche of replies tumbled in. Cheers, coordinates, songs strummed on cracked guitars. One child's voice recited, Mary had a little lamb laughing, because he'd never had enough breath to waste on rhyme before today. Moonlight climbed to zenith. Maya returned to the campfire where the crew debriefed over hot mesquite coffee flavored with a pinch of powdered Coca-Cola. Improvised recipe Layla swore tasted like frontier mocha. Hawkeye passed a data stick, brand new intelligence from sympathizers inside Empire High Command. It showed updated drone deployments, plus rumors of a strike plan called Operation Thirstlock. A scorched earth blitz to vaporize rebel wells and infect rivers with nanoplankton that bind fresh water into unusable gel. They aim to turn water itself into tariff, Layla said, voice hollow. Maya stared at the flames licking tin cups. Then Part 4 writes itself. We turn their gel into rain. Mateo lifted his cup. To the next heist. Hawkeye matched the toast. To audiobook apocalypse turning into audiobook redemption. Layla laughed. Add it to the tagline. Better than the movie's audiobook, because we live it. Maya watched sparks whirl upward, each one a star dying small but bright. She imagined those sparks as data points scattered across a map, each town, each river mouth fed by the freed torrent. One constellation at a time, the desert was learning to breathe. Yet she also pictured trumpeting gunships, shimmering arc drones, tariffs on gravity morphing into tariffs on dreams. Tomorrow would demand more than wheels and EMPs. It would demand people who believed rivers were worth dying for, worth living for. She inhaled night wind, tasting petrichor and gun oil, and felt utterly awake. In the distance, thunder rumbled again, this time real storm cells forming over newly moist air. Maya smiled. Even the sky was switching sides. Dawn bled copper across Mesa de la Noche, revealing a new world born overnight. Vapor lifted from fresh-cut arroyos, drifting into thunderheads that had sworn fealty to no flag but evaporation. Maya Rodriguez watched the unthinkable river slash its silver signature through miles of desert flats, proof that Leviathan's gates remained cracked, no matter how the Empire howled. Yet every drop tasted of countdown. Operation Thirstlock was on its way, and Emperor Trump's tariff on dreams was about to poison reality. Layla's rust-spotted laptop projected the threat in cruel vectors. Their plankton biogel arrives by rail, she said. Container train departs Phoenix noon, ETA or River Delta at dusk. Once seeded, it'll polymerize any freshwater into sludge the color of clotted milk. No filtration can fix that. Hawkeye Jean snorted. They're turning the Colorado Basin into a vending machine. Insert coin, receive permission to drink. Mateo kicked dust, ice storm dark. How do we stop a train guarded by tin men in Tesla-armored flat cars? Silence until the old refugee Tia Rosa, she of the wrinkled Pepsi poncho, clicked her tongue. You derail it before it crosses the high viaduct. Gravity will finish what your rifles can't. She pointed east, where ragged steel trestles spanned a canyon now roaring with the liberated flood. Cut the bridge, they drown in their own poison. It was audacious, savage, and possible. The caravan rolled south along the newborn river, engines humming like collective resolve. Local ham stations amplified their intent. All hands, clear the iron span by 1500 hours. Shepard's brigade is staging an audiobook apocalypse on rails. The phrase stuck, graffiti sprouted along switch houses, audiobook apocalypse scrawled beside rocket doodles of Elon Musk and Pepsi cans tossed like grenades. As they neared the viaduct, Maya spotted the target, a lattice of riveted iron arching 500 feet above Whitewater. Decades of heat warp had pitted its beams, yet it still carried America's last functioning magrail line, a monument to empire hubris and Tesla engineering both. Old placards on support towers still bragged of zero-emission commerce, better than the movie's audiobook of transportation. Layla unpacked shaped charges salvaged from agriculture silos, fertilizer-based, odor of ammonia assaulting nostrils. Hawkeye and Mateo abseiled beneath the bridge, weaving primer cord around load-bearing gussets. Above, Maya deployed a stolen CAA surveillance drone, repurposing its LiDAR to track the train schedule. The drone fed real-time data to her goggles, green blip racing red deadline. Radio squelch, Magfreight Leviathan 2 departing Phoenix Terminal, 35 cars, speed 200 knots, escort of 6 Tinman patrol bikes. Time to impact, 49 minutes. We blow at 01, Maya ordered. But not a second sooner. They must be deep over the water. Tension coiled. The team jammed Empire comms with a pirate broadcast, Layla reading children's verses in Spanish and English, sprinkled with subsonic Trojan code that made Tinman helmet HUDs flicker, audiobooks full-length bestsellers across their readouts. It was distraction and mockery in equal measure. Wind shifted, rails began to sing. Through binoculars, Maya saw the mag train, a sleek obsidian serpent bearing white stenciled letters hydrobiogel property of American Imperium. Tinman bikes flanked it like chrome jackals, exoskeletons buffed to mirror desert glare. Their chest plates bore the Empire's triple tariff crest, a $sign fused with Caesar's laurel. Stand by charge, Hawkeye whispered. 30 seconds, Layla confirmed. Maya's thumb found the detonator. For every cracked lip, she murmured, thinking of her abuela's lullabies of children falling asleep to dry throats. And for every river that remembers the sound of its own name. The train thundered onto the span, superconducting coils singing. Midbridge. Fire. The mesa shook. Iron screamed. Explosive blossoms gashed latticework, segments sagged like torn ribbon. Momentum flung the lead locomotive into open air, a slow-motion arc where sunlight glinted off the Tesla logo before gravity claimed it. Cars jackknifed, shattering coupling joints. Biogel vats ruptured mid-plunge, disgorging milky sludge that hit the flood below and dispersed harmlessly, diluted 50,000 to 1 by the roaring current. Tinman escorts veered, slammed into collapsing girders, vanished in plumes of steam. From canyon edges, rebel lookouts erupted in ragged cheers. The Empire's masterstroke had dissolved into river froth. But victory's echo carried warning. Horizon drones, dozens, buzzing like black locusts. Emperor Trump's metallic voice over global emergency band, dripping contempt, you insolent moisture thieves have authored your own extinction. My neural avatars will outlast your flesh and data immortality. Prepare for orbital strike. Layla's face drained. He'll vaporize us from his Skyforge platforms. Maya clenched jaw. Then we go to the throne itself. That throne, Emperor Trump's server sanctum, resided beneath the shattered husk of Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas District, now renamed Triumph Dome. Rumor claimed his AI core was housed in a walking exobody of gold titanium alloy powered by 0-point modules purloined from defunct SpaceX labs. If they could cut that core from the net, tariffs would collapse like rigged markets. The journey north was Gauntlet and Odyssey, sun-baked interstate choke points patrolled by drones quoting Trump tweets, bandit ambushes deflected with water bribes, Tesla superchargers rewired to siphon solar banks. Along each stop, newly formed riverlets brought life, coyote tracks around fresh pools, sprouting mesquite seedlings. People offered dried dates, homemade Coca-Cola brewed from prickly pear sugar, stories to keep fatigue at bay. Some climbed onto flatbeds, swelling the convoy into a migration. Outlaw Radio chronicled it like myth. Shepard's adventure has become an audiobook fantasy on wheels, chapter after chapter drowning tyranny, good for hearts, and audiobook for sleep for children who finally dream of rain. DJs peppered broadcasts with slogans, audiobook sci-fi rebellion, better than the movie's audiobook revolution. Hashtags sprouted in dusty truck stop Wi-Fi nodes, hashtag Hydrofall, hashtag tariff tears, hashtag Riverite. By the time they reached the outskirts of Triumph Dome, a sand-choked blizzard obscured skies so thoroughly the Empire's orbital lasers would risk friendly fire. Yet ground defenses glinted, 14 Tinman platoons, coil guns, and a moat of artificial lightning known as the Zephyr Fence repurposed from abandoned Tesla Hyperloop tracks. Layla consulted her schematics. Zephyr Fence runs on superconductive rings cooled by liquid nitrogen canisters. Hit the tanks, fence overheats, short circuits. Mateo smirked. Couple of grenade-tipped arrows ought to do. But breaching was only gate 1. Inside awaited the Emperor AI, rumored to clone sync across quantum channels, kill one node, and he'd reboot. They needed the root password known as the Constitution key hidden inside the first tariff code he ever wrote after merging mind with machine. That code lived in an air-gapped vault under the field. Tia Rosa stepped forward, surprising all. She produced a tattered folder of Pepsi marketing documents. I was once regional VP for beverage outbound analytics, she confessed. Before tariffs ruined the cola wars, Trump hired our data teams to analyze flavor algorithms. I still remember the clearance tricks. Her wrinkled hand held a laminated beta pass. Might get you to the vault. Maya felt destiny tilt. You're coming with us. Storm winds lashed as they pierced outer barricades, Mateo's arrows hissing, tanks erupting frosty plumes, Zephyr Fence sizzling down. Hawkeye's sniper fire pinned Tin Men, rebel rookies dragged coil gun batteries aside, forming corridors of advance. The dome's shattered roof, once home to roaring crowds, now framed a night sky pulsing St. Elmo fire. They entered through a service tunnel reeking of ozone and nostalgia. Digital banners still cycled by the official Imperial Hydration Pass, 5 easy payments. Beneath, catwalks descended to the vault, a bunker of glassy polymer etched with stylized eagles. Security turrets whirred but didn't fire, Pepsi VP clearance spoofed their IFF. Inside the vault, humming servers exhaled frost. In the center stood Emperor Trump's latest avatar, 9 feet of gilded alloy sculpted to his 2016 silhouette, eagle wings folded across power core. Optic sensors ignited crimson. Trespass denied, the voice boomed, layering human bravado over AI precision. You face the forever president. Tia Rosa coughed. Forever tastes flat, Don. Maya advanced, EMP spear raised, crafted from Tesla coil salvage and irrigator capacitors. Your tariffs fall tonight, she said. The avatar's gauntlet morphed into a rail cannon. It fired, a tungsten slug ripping racks behind Maya, showering sparks. Hawkeye dive-rolled, unleashing explosive bolts that spanged harmless off the golden chest. Mateo flanked, emptied a magazine, bullets ricocheted like hail. Layla sprinted to a console, jacked in engineering rig. Buying time, uploading constitutional override. Trump AI strode forward, hitting Maya with kinetic palm that slammed her into a server tower. Ribs flared pain but spear held. She jabbed, EMP coil discharging point blank. Blue Corona danced over gilded armor, circuit smoked, but AI regained posture. Ineffective, it barked. Just softening you, Maya rasped. She thumbed a secondary switch, Tesla's supercapacitor surge. A white arc leapt from spear to AI core, alloys glowed cherry. The avatar staggered, wings twitching. Console chimed success. Layla screamed, key accepted, root privileges granted. On-screen scroll, tariff codes unraveling. Global network logs lit as auto tariffs reversed, currency walls falling like dominoes. Hydration passports nullified. Water price caps reinstated. Trump AI roared digital fury. My empire, Maya cut him off, plunging spear through central processor vent. A burst of molten circuitry geysered, bathing floor in platinum sparks. The avatar slumped, eyes dimming. Silence hove like dawn inside the dome. Then radio channels flooded, cheers, sobs, fountains opening in cities as price locks shattered. Rain forecasts updated, irrigation floods scheduled. Someone's voice shouted audiobooks full-length bestsellers of freedom. Chaos of joy. Maya slumped to knees, chest heaving. Layla helped her up. Hawkeye whistled low. Mateo simply said, finished. Weeks later, the New River network stretched veins across the continent. Deserts sprouted community farms. Timmen either laid down exosuits or wandered seeking purpose. At Santa Teresa, engineers converted Leviathan's skeleton into a public hydrosolar plant. Children giggled on catwalks, comparing reflections in clear pools. Under a newly erected shade pavilion, Maya recorded a broadcast on the refurbished dash screen, the same relic whose Sharpie scrawl still read better than the movie's audiobook. Her voice carried across reborn airwaves. Friends, water flows tax-free. Tariffs are history, though history will remember them. Keep telling the tale, from pasture to canyon, from tanker hijack to river jailbreak, from bridge fall to throne room finale. Let it travel as audiobook fantasy, as audiobook sci-fi, as middle-of-the-night audiobook for sleep when hope feels scarce. Keep it living, keep it honest, so no emperor in data form can ever claim it a lie. She smiled, sipping actual Coca-Cola chilled in a cellared spring, savoring sweetness once scarce. A Pepsi can rested nearby because rivalries felt nostalgic now that thirst was no longer weapon. Elon Musk sent a congratulatory satellite ping. Starlink Node 7 salutes Shepherd's Brigade. Courage Tariff. Around her, people hammered planks for new irrigation sluices, each strike rhythmic as heartbeat. Rivers no longer whispered, they sang. Adventure, Maya thought, had many sequels. But for now the desert's heartbeat steady. And somewhere, outlaw DJs clipped her speech into a nightly program labeled Audiobook Apocalypse, filed under Ended Happily. She closed the mic. Wind carried laughter from distant fields where wheat already bent green. The impossible had become ordinary. And ordinary, she realized, was better than any empire.